So this is homework 19, 4.6, 4.7. Here is number 2. So let's rewrite this so we can see it better. We're asked to solve this equation. Because it's an equation, we can clear the fractions. What are we looking for? The least common multiple of 4 and 5. You might say this is not a fraction. We'll just put it over 1 if that makes you happier, and then you can include 1 in there. But this is going to be 20. How do I know? Well, I need 2 factors of 2 and 1 factor of 5. I need to use every prime number the most times it occurs. So what do? We multiply both sides by 20. And so I'm going to do that. And just be careful with your minus signs and parentheses. Okay, I got us a little more room over here. And what happens when I multiply this first term? Well, I'm going to divide 20 by 4. What does that give me? 5 times x plus 7. Okay, now here I have 20 divided by 5, and there's a minus sign there. So that's going to be 4. 20 divided by 5 is 4. And that equals 60. And now we're on our way. So 5x plus 35 minus 4x. Caution now, what's this going to be? It's a negative 4 times a negative 8. So that's plus 32 equals 60. Okay? Combine like terms. Well, I have 5x minus 4x. That gives me x. So that's gone. I have 35 and 32, which would be 67 equals 60. Okay, so now I just need to subtract this from both sides, and we will have our answer. I'll get x equals negative 7, and that is my answer. So, hope that one wasn't too bad. Now, let's look at number 5. Now, don't forget, we have this cross multiplication tool or property. So, we can cross multiply. So, I get this equation. I have 3x minus 8 times x equals 8 times 2, right? So now when I get rid of my parentheses, this gives me 3x squared minus 8x equals 16. Okay, we are going to have to factor y because it's not a first degree equation. It's a second degree equation. We have an x squared. So we need to get the expression on one side and 0 on the other. So we do that by subtracting 16, and I'll have 3x squared minus 8x minus 16 equals 0. So now here comes the fun part. We have to factor this. Okay, so I go to a new page here, and I don't want to guess and check. I'm going to use our factoring by grouping. So capital A times capital B needs to equal what? 3 times negative 16, which is what? 48? Negative 48. And A plus B has to equal the middle term, middle coefficient anyway, negative 8. So let's think of factors of 48. First ones that come to my mind are 4 times 12. That would equal 48. I need to make one of them negative. If I make the 12 negative, does that work? Does that 4 plus negative 12 equals negative 8, right? So there we go. Not too bad. So now we rewrite 3x squared. I usually put the minus one first to make life easier for myself, but it will work no matter which way you do it. So notice that this is the same as what we have here, minus 12x plus 4x equals negative 8x. Now group, and we're ready to factor out the common factor of each group. This will be 3x, leaving me with x minus 4. What can I factor out over here? I think I can factor out a 4. It better leave me with x minus 4, and it does. So now I see that this is x minus 4, that's my common factor, times what? 3x plus 4. And then what do? You set each factor equal to 0. So either x equals 4 or x equals negative 4/3. And those are my two answers. All right, number 6. Word problem. A 14-foot board. This is the length of the board, which is not 100% clear. So it's 14 feet long. It's going to be cut into 2 pieces, but not equal. One piece is going to be bigger than the other. So the ratio of the length is going to be 4 to 3. So we have a ratio 4 to 3, which we can write as a fraction 4 to 3. So now what do? Well, we want to find the lengths of the 2 pieces. So let the longer piece, let's call that length L. Then what is the shorter piece going to be? Here's the tricky part. Well, if the longer piece is L feet long, see if this makes sense. The shorter piece is going to be 14 minus L. Because in total, if this is L, then this is 14 minus L, because they have to add up to 14. So that's sort of the hard part, coming up with this. But now I have L over 14 minus L. So if you can get there, you can do it. We just cross multiply now. And this is the same sort of idea we've used previously. You come up with a variable, and then you don't want two variables, so you've got to figure out how to express the other one in terms of the first one you chose. So what do I get now when I cross multiply? I have 4 times 14 minus L equals 3L. So 4 times 14 is 56 minus 4L equals 3L. So let's just add 4L to both sides. And then what do I get? 56 equals 7L. You know what to do now? Solve for L. What is L? L is 8 feet. So that is the longer piece, 8 feet. What is the shorter piece? The shorter piece is 14 minus 8, which is 6. So that's 6 feet. Okay, so this was the key, coming up with this ratio. Now, number 7. Another proportion problem. Let's see, what does it say? There's 1,450 people who voted, and the ratio of female to male voters was 2 to 3. So that means there were more men that voted than women. Does that make sense? 2 to 3. Okay. So what do we want to know? How many female voters there are and how many male voters there are. Well, we have to choose a variable. Since we're talking about numbers of people, I'm going to let N be the number of female voters. So I have female to male. This ratio is going to be 2 to 3. The female voters is going to be N. How do I express the male voters? Together, they have to add up to 1450. So isn't this will be 1450 minus the number of female voters. So that's that same trick as we did in the previous example. Now I have my proportion and I can cross multiply. So what do we get this time? 3n equals 2 times 1450 minus n, or 3n equals, what is that? 2,900 minus 2n. So we're just solving for n now. What am I going to do? I'm going to add 2n to both sides, and I need more room. So let's go over here and figure this out. So I have on the left-hand side 5n, and I have on the right-hand side 2,900. To figure out what n is, divide by 5. N equals 580, I think. Let's check. Yes. Now, what is N? Sometimes you might forget along the way. N is the number of female voters. So this is 580. How do I figure out the male voters? Well, that was 1450 minus N. So 1450 minus 580 is 870. And make sure, are there more men than women? Yes. And you could also do this. Put 580 in your calculator and divide it by 870. And this does equal 2/3. That's a way to check things when you're dealing with a proportion. All right. This looks like you see that same time? I see that same time. So this is that time equals what? Well, we know distance equals rate times time. So time equals distance divided by rate. That's what we're going to be using. Kent, his distance is 290 miles. Dave, his distance is 270 miles. Now, what else do we know? Kent is going faster than Dave. So let's let Dave's rate, let's choose a variable, R, and then Kent's rate will be what? R plus 4. And remember, the time is the same. So we have distance over R. That's the way we want to set it up. So for Kent, I have 290 over R plus 4. And for Dave, I have 270 over R. And you guessed it, we're going to cross multiply. So what do I get? 290R equals R plus 4 times 270. Okay, now we just have to solve this equation. So 290R equals 270R plus 4 times 270, which turns out to be 1080. Let's get some more room and keep going. So what I'm going to do is subtract 270R from both sides of this equation. What will that give me? 20R equals 1080. Now what do we do? Divide by 20. So R equals what? Put that in your calculator, you'll get 54 miles per hour. Now, what was R? R is Dave's speed. So Dave went 54. So what is Kent? Remember, he is a little bit faster. 58 miles per hour. Pretty good. All right, we have one more to do. And this one, I think, is a little tricky. So, what do we know? Barry can do a certain job in 7 hours. So, remember, this is going to be one job over time. So, he can do one job in 7 hours. Sanchez needs 10 hours to do the same job. So that's one job over 10 hours. How long would it take for them to do it if they're working together? So together, that means add. Together. So 1 over 7 plus 1 over 10 equals what? Well, we want one job and we're trying to figure out how many hours. So just put an H down there. H is my variable. This is going to be the hours. Now what do I do? Well, solve this equation. I would clear the fractions. So we need the least common multiple of 7, 10, and H. They don't have any factors in common. This is just going to be 70H. So I'm going to multiply everything by 70H. So 70H times 1 over 7 plus 70H times 1 over 10 equals 70H times 1 over H. And this will lead us to a solution. Get a little more room here and figure out what this is. When you do this multiplication, we're dividing 70 by 7. That gives me 10H. Do the second multiplication, we're dividing 70 by 10. That gives me 7H. And over here, what happens? The H's cancel. 70H divided by H equals 70. So 17H equals 70. So what is H? 70 divided by 17. Now, this is weird. This is how you're going to enter your answer in WebAssign. You're just going to put in the numbers and use your slash key. Because sometimes WebAssign is wacky. They don't give you the fraction option. So you have to just enter it like that. And don't enter a decimal because this is a huge decimal. So you want to enter a fraction like this. And that's it. The end of chapter 4. Let me know if you need more examples or you have any questions.